Hello, I'm Dr. Pam Kramer-Ertel, Dean of the College of Education, and with me today I have two students from my Dean's Advisory Council. The purpose of this council is to provide a voice for students to address concerns and suggestions for the College of Education and the Teacher Education Unit. And today we're going to be talking about some questions that might be of interest to students in our Teacher Education program. So I'm going to let the members of the Dean's Advisory Council introduce themselves. Chris, want to start?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm a senior here at East Stroudsburg University. My major is middle level science and special education.
All right.
And I'm Tim Jones. I'm a junior at East Stroudsburg, and my major is health and physical education.
Very good. Well, today we want to talk about the screening process and perhaps address some questions that you might have if you're thinking about how to enter and progress through the teacher education program. So let's begin. Tim, you're going to ask the first question,
Sure.
right?
What is department screening?
In each of our teacher education majors, you may hear the word screening. Sometimes it's called program admission. And we are mandated by the state of Pennsylvania to have a formal admittance process to teacher education. So each program has specific requirements that have to be met in order for students to enter the major. Now, when students apply to the university, they come in as a pre-education major, whether it's pre-physical education and health education, whether it's pre-early childhood, middle level, and then once they go through this screening process and are formally admitted, then they are truly in the program. But in order to do that, they have to go through the process that is identified by their specific major and meet all the requirements in order to be officially screened or admitted to the program.
So, if I am screening in, what materials do I need?
Well, the first thing you want to do is find out what your specific department requires. While there's some generic requirements that are true for all teacher ed programs, each program has some slightly different requirements. But essentially, all the programs have a number of things in common. One of the things in common is that you have to meet certain requirements. And one of those requirements is a basic skills test. Now, it used to be what was called the Praxis 1. It was a basic skills test in reading, writing, and math. The state has now created a new test called the Pearson Education Certification Test. And for this first level, there's an assessment of basic skills. So this pre-service academic performance assessment, more belovedly known as the PAPA test, is now required for all students that are seeking admittance to teacher education. And this is a basic skills test in reading, writing, and math. In addition to that, students have to put together a portfolio of materials that identify all the requirements that they've met for screening. Some of those requirements include clearances. There's three major clearances that you need. The Act 34 clearance is the Pennsylvania State background check, and that reviews your criminal history to make sure you don't have a criminal record and that you're safe to work with children. The second one is the Act 151, which is a child abuse history clearance. And the third one is an FBI rap sheet. Essentially, it checks your federal criminal history record, again, to make sure that you do not have any record of infractions. And these all must be completed and submitted as part of your portfolio, and you cannot have any infractions. If you do have a problem where you have an infraction on your record, you would meet with the Associate Dean of Field Experiences and address those infractions and see what your best course of action is. In addition to having clearances for your screening, you also have to have a tuberculosis test, otherwise known as a TB test. You have to have membership in one of our student organizations. This varies slightly from program to program. Most programs require Pennsylvania State Education Association membership, or PSEA. You join as a student, and this provides liability insurance for you so that you're protected when you're doing your field work. Some specific majors may have other requirements, such as in special education, you might need the Council for Exceptional Children membership, student membership. So you would check with your individual major to see what the requirements are for that. You also have to have a minimum GPA of 2.8 to screen into the program. Now, ideally we'd like students to have a 3.0 because that's what's required for certification in the state of Pennsylvania. But we do allow students to screen in with a 2.8. But if you do that, you do sign a letter that says you're aware that you must have a 3.0 in order to be certified. So that is something you definitely would want to work on as you go through your program. And so once all these materials are put together in a portfolio, you then have an interview with your faculty. In some departments, you meet with one faculty member. It might be your academic advisor. In others, you meet with a team of faculty. They will then vote on you as a department to determine your eligibility for candidacy. Your name is then submitted to our Teacher Ed Council, which has representatives from students, faculty, and our school district partners. And then once they have approved you, your name is sent back to your department and you get an official letter saying, welcome to teacher education. You are now formally screened or accepted into the program. So
Very
it's quite
good.
an arduous process, but a
Sounds
very
like it.
important one.
Now, after I have all of those requirements, what should I do to prepare for my screening interview?
Well, in terms of the interview, one of the things that your faculty want to see is that you can conduct yourself in a professional manner. So you want to think about how you'll present yourself during the interview. So each of the departments would expect that you would dress professionally, that you would arrive on time, and that you would be able to interact effectively as you're asked questions. The types of questions that you're asked will vary depending on the department. Some will ask specific requirements about their major. Others just want to know who you are as a person and what your goals are as a professional. So I always would encourage you to review your program requirements, look at our teacher education unit mission, know what some of the outcomes are for our program so that you can talk about the program. But most importantly, you want to be able to articulate why you want to be in a teacher education program.
Sounds good. So I know we talked about the practices in the PAPA, and I know there's plenty more tests for people to take. So how do I know what tests I need to take?
That's a great question because there's been a lot of changes going on in Pennsylvania right now and a lot of confusion. So each academic year, students are given a copy of all the testing requirements for the teacher education unit. So the best thing to do would be to refer to that document. That information is also available on our website, and certainly you can check with your academic advisor. But for screening, the same basic tests are required of everyone, and now that is that PAPA test, which has a separate test for reading, writing, and math. And I would add that these are very rigorous tests. It seems to be that they are more rigorous than the praxis used to be, so we strongly encourage students to prepare for them. There are online test prep materials that you can access. We strongly recommend you do that, prepare for that ahead of time so that you can be successful and save yourself time and money and hopefully not need to retake the test.
I've heard those tests were really tough.
Yes.
Now, after it's all said and done, how will I know my screening's complete?
That really is an important question because many times students think, oh, I've done my interview, I've been screened, but that is not correct. Your screening is only officially complete once you receive a letter from your department saying you have been officially been admitted to the teacher ed program. So that's very critical because at that point there'll be an attribute changed on your academic record that will indicate that you have been screened, and that will be important because screening is required for admittance to some of the upper division courses in the teacher ed program.